and welcome to a class that I'm calling How to Take the Step Towards Ger. Okay. The question that I myself, you are probably having, everybody that's involved with the Ger movement, if we can call it that, the next stage of the Noahide movement. Thank God we've arrived at a place in time and space where the Ger is here. Only nobody really knows what a Ger is, who a Ger is. I myself included. It's brand new. At least for where we are in history, it's still pretty much brand new. As much as I can explain it and talk about it, it still has its gloss. So what I want to share now is, rabbinics aside, my personal story about how I came to take that step into what we call the world of the Ger. And how my advice to you about how you too can take that step, that necessary step, into the world of the Ger. And maybe should you not take it? How do you take it? Where do you take it? All those fears aside, we should now address. And thus the intention of the class is called Taking the Step into the World of the Ger. The basic premise is one thing. Nobody can take that step for you. No famous rabbi that lived can take that step for you. This is between you and God. And more importantly, you need to become aware of God bringing you through the process. Everybody that's coming into this revelation of the Ger, advanced Noahide, even call it the days of Mashiach, God willing. We all have to make that step, and we're looking for the for the map to bring us into the territory. But it doesn't work that way. When we will have taken the step and we look back, we will see a map. You'll find that the path that you are walking on actually has been blazed before you. So without any more delay, I just want to explain how I took the step. Right? Hopefully that by me sharing what I had to do, everybody can realize their own light in their life and what they can or think they should do. So here's my personal story, I guess, with Ger. I started working with Noahides in 2011. And if anybody has seen the Shem series, that was the first series. And it started off very benign, right? Basically, it was predicated on that cave just out the window here, the cave of Shem and Aver. And we have a 34-class series on Shem and the Midrash, the ancient teachings and parables of Shem, son of Noah. We had a nice little following. People were interested. Shem was exciting and new, and it was fun. And that was all I could say about that. It really was nothing more or less, because everything was brand new. There was nothing concrete or official or moving on. No one ever heard or thought of Ger. This was all just fun. It was fun to learn about Shem and to teach about Shem and to get people excited about Shem. And with that said, the questions started to roll. People started to come week by week and to tune in to the new Shem series. And those of you that may be watching this video, you know who you are. And the dangerous question came. You know the dangerous question? Rabbi Katz, are we as Noahides allowed to keep Shabbos? And I'm saying, everybody knows the party line, right? The non-Jew that keeps Shabbos is obligated to die, right? A goy that keeps Shabbos is chayav misa. Everybody in the yeshiva in the world knows this line. It's the classic line. Anybody that asks the question, they get that line. You've heard that line? So I decided that day that a long-standing decision that I'm not going to give in to the party lines as I give the Shem series, right? As you know, coming out of yeshiva, I spoke very yeshivish, and I posted my notes from the first class on Facebook. And the notes were very clear, saying, speak English, right? Don't speak yeshivish twang, right? Avram Avinu is now Abraham, and Yitzchak Avinu is now Isaac. And to the point where my friends that I would meet at this stage in life, new friends, would say, they asked me if I knew Hebrew, because I would come across as I didn't know any Hebrew. Because I made a decision, kind of like, when actors go into a movie, they don't break character to get the character right. So I made a decision that Yeshivish Rabbi Katz is not what this operation needs. That's just going to be more of the ghetto mentality, more of the party line mentality, and whatever I'm trying to do or wish I could do, that's not what I want to do. And so, therefore, when the Shabbos question came up, I bit my tongue, grit my teeth, and I said, look, I'll research it and I'll come back to you tomorrow. And I did, and I didn't expect to find anything. Just like everybody else that hears the Shabbos question expects to find nothing. Because in yeshiva they beat it in your head. There is no Shabbos for the non-Jew. As I researched, the first place I got to was the Ten Commandments. Remember, I had never heard of Ger before. No, I just knew a Ger Toshav a little bit, whatever that is. I didn't even know if I knew what that was in such great detail. Right? Most people in yeshiva don't know this in great detail. You get it in the daily Gemara if you're lucky. And so I went, I remember how I looked it up. I looked it up and I came to the Ten Commandments. And it says, the Ger keeps Shabbos. Great. So we're done. Here we go. Done. Thank you. Have a nice day, folks. And I gave the answer, and I said, look, hey, people can keep Shabbos. Not a big deal. And I thought that was it. Let's get on with life. Just keep going with Shem. And every day the questions kept coming. But wait a minute. What about, the questions never stopped. And I'm saying, wait, we found the thing. It's this Ger Toshav. It's the biblical non-Jew. He keeps the 7 laws. He can keep Shabbos. Done. Go away. And as the questions kept coming, it's like I had to keep proving that the Ger was legit. But it wasn't. Nothing was established yet that it should matter. It was more of kind of like a coming into something. Right now, the words we could use there is we were getting it. Right, the students that I was working with, we were getting it. We were beginning to get it. Something was coming down. Something was coming into our lives. And I started to figure out what this is. All of a sudden, these non-Jews were all of a sudden people that, it's degrading to call them special people. But that was the word that I was trying to use. But looking back, what I would call special was these people spoke no Hebrew, no Torah concepts that I knew of, and yet pure Torah was coming out of these people. And I'm saying, this is kind of strange, Let's take more questions and see where this goes. So every day after class, I'd say, okay, thanks very much. See you next week, and remember to send your questions to good old Rabbi Katz. And I wasn't trying to be facetious about it, but it was more of an attraction. And the questions weren't coming so much, but relationships were being forged. And that was already, a precedent, because the relationships were based on Torah. It was based on this world of the Ger. I didn't know that then, but that's what it was. We were both coming into this Jew-Ger world of mutual cooperation in Torah. I'm saying that that's got to be at least step 1 or 2. Right? To make that step, you have to make the union, Jew-Ger, some kind of cooperation. And you get a mutual trust, a mutual understanding, a shared vision, shared interests. And all of a sudden you find that people are very motivated to progress the world into something great. So that's how I started coming into the Ger world. Right? I'm leaning towards making some kind of a step. I didn't know what it was. And getting deeper with Shem and the idea of, pre-Abraham Torah. And it was pretty scary. not knowing where you're going in terms of what does tomorrow hold. But then the moment that really changed everything, and this is the point I want to dwell on. We got to a point where there's a theoretical, maybe kind of, sort of would-be ger, and maybe they can keep Shabbos, and I seem to think so, and I didn't get any backlash saying no. You know, ran it by some friends in the yeshiva and kollel, rabbanim that I respected. It seemed like, you know, no one had a problem. But yet, nobody really felt comfortable to, you know, blast in a microphone, hey, you know, everybody, guess what? There's a ger Toshav Shabbos. And my moment of truth came on a Shabbos afternoon at a friend's house. And I must have somehow got turned on to Yevamos 48b, which is the famous Talmud page that deals with the Ten Commandments and the ger Shabbat. And as I'm looking through, and they had a Talmud in their house, and I'm looking through it. I think my kids at the time were at the babysitter's house, so I had some time to meditate on Shabbos at lunch and think things over properly. And we came to a stumbling block of ger tzedek, right? Usually deemed the convert. Like 99.9 repeating, if not 100. It actually is 100% until now. 100% ger tzedek is a convert until we broke things open. And you know, so here was the bottom line. You're relating the Ten Commandments to the non-Jewish Shabbat, and it says right there, ger tzedek is the one. So it's over, done, done. All the work you've done until now, it's over. That's what I felt that, you know, creeping up on me. And I thought, man, no way. Isn't this all this for just gone like that? You know, no consolation prize, just whack, it's over. And I mean, it wasn't afraid, it just was kind of, okay, it's over. But I got one more kick in my gut to say, look at it again. You know, real nice kind of feeling. Look at it again. And so I did. And I sort of recapture the learning and restructure the whole thing. And I realized that I saw a thread, you know, like really the last remnant of a thread. And my inclination said, you're not learning it right. You know you're just, you know, BSing this Talmud page. And I thought, am I? Am I really just kind of not learning it? And I realized, yeah, I'm not learning this that well. Sit down and learn it right. You know, like back in yeshiva, when you try to, you know, when the Rebbe's looking at you like, no, learn it right. And you're thinking about lunch or going out, and you say, all right, let's go. Let's learn this right. Let's go. You get your pen, crack it open. Let's go. We're doing this. And I steiged it out. Steig it out means that you learn it really well. And I did. And I saw how the learning was going. You know, putting myself back in that Bacher mentality. You know, first year yeshiva student. You know, because this type of Gemara was, you can look it up, Yevamos 48b. It's like 99% mechanics. It's one of the Talmudic pieces that's not really translatable. It's pure mechanics. In Talmud, sometimes there's more of a mechanism than a literal story. And so when I read the mechanics, I said, wait a minute. The reason why I was basically blowing this off was because I thought ger tzedek is always a convert. Could it be that a ger tzedek can be a non-Jew? That's what I'm thinking. Like really? You know, my mind's like you know, going like, really? Is that true? Could it? And by the end of that Shabbos meal, I came to the conclusion, it is. I know I learned this right. I'm looking at it, and that's like the idea of almost all ger Torah. When the Jew learns ger Torah, it's like you just go to sleep. Right? Like Chaim was telling me about the 4 kings with Abraham, right? Why do we never know Melchizedek Shem? Because you get there, Lecha, Abraham, yes, it's awesome, we're in Eretz Yisrael, 4 kings, who cares? Get over it, soon we're going to be in somewhere much better. No one cares about the 4 kings. You just got back to yeshiva, the vacation's over, 4 kings and 5 kings are not what you want to get into. And that is like every single Ger idea in the planet. Right? I mean, what's another one? Parshas Ray. You give the nevela to the Ger. What? Who? So what? I don't know. So the mind just, goes down. Certain things in Torah, you just collapse. Right? Here's the one, you'll like this. Like when you read, this psalm we read every Rosh Chodesh. You say, ugh. Every Rosh Chodesh. What can it mean if it's every Rosh Chodesh? But then you realize, wait a minute. Somebody just instituted we read this every Rosh Chodesh. David HaMelech didn't say, well, this is the one we're going to read every Rosh Chodesh. David HaMelech put this in the Psalms regular. So we have just kind of this construct that certain things matter and certain things don't matter. And they never change. The Ger Toshav doesn't matter. How to put your right shoe on first, that matters. Shem and the tents of Shem doesn't matter. Yaakov hating Esav and Esav hating Yaakov, all that matters. And there's like a whole Judaism, Fence Torah, based on this principle. And so that day was when I finally said, switcheroo. Maybe the Ger Tzedek non-Jew, Yevamos 48b, nobody learns Yevamos. Nobody. It's just, you go to yeshiva, I want to learn Yevamos, Rabbi. No one learns it. Gotta learn Bava Kama, gotta learn Bava Mitzvah, Masechta Shabbos, Masechta Brachas. No one says, I would like to learn Yevamos. Rav Weingat told me, my Rosh Yeshiva said, Yevamos is the tractate, the guys at the street corners, waiting for buses, have their own little lingo. They speak Yevamos to each other. Like fringe, yeshivish fringe, in a healthy way. And so that's where the Ger is. He's in the yeshivish fringe. Guys that learn Yevamos, guys that learn, what's the one that we say? Where's the Croesus 9a? Like what? Who? What? Croesus? What? And that's where the Ger is. He's out in the distant realm. When you start to get into Ger and you start to transcend, you allow yourself to connect, to get it, and you're getting it with this word called getting it. What you're really getting is the blessing of Melchizedek to Abraham. Right? That's what you're getting. But as far as you're concerned, I'm getting it, I feel like I'm getting it. I'm getting it. But what your neshama, what your soul is saying is, I am getting it. Right? You are plugging into the story. Like the story. And so therefore, when you start to really get going, and you start meeting up with other Ger people, like, again, the Yevamos people speaking, Yevamos is the Levirate marriage, tractate in the Talmud. So people just talking weird talk. No one talks Yevamos. No one talks Ger. Right? No one talks, what is Ger Tzedek and Ger Toshav? It's just not spoken. There's not a precedent to speak it. But once you do and you meet up, as you well know, all of a sudden you say, hey, what's this conversion bill in Israel? Hey, what's this Ger thing? Hey, is this person a Ger? Hey, I was reading the Midrash Rabbah and it said this guy's a Ger. Hey, this Talmud, all of a sudden the Ger is everywhere. What happened? All of a sudden you start getting momentum like a train, like a raging river, right? And the revelation starts unfolding. And you start getting it more. And then one day you say, I got it. I just got it. I don't know how I didn't get it before. So now you're stuck in Ger zone. And you say, okay, I get Ger. I don't know what a Ger is, but I get Ger. Right? But then it just keeps going. And you start to get, people start saying, here, you're the Ger guy? Here, go read Rabbi Nachman on Ger. I think he says something. You say, okay, why not? It doesn't hurt. And you open up Rabbi Nachman, you say, wow, he's the Ger master. Then you get, you get the really Talmudic guys, and they say, yeah, the Brisker's got a great thing on the Ger Toshav. The Brisker's like the Harvard of Talmudics. And he ends up being the master in his world of Ger. And you get these proofs along the way. They're called smachtas in Hebrew. You get a proof and you say, ah, I'm not the only one in the world that ever heard of Ger. And you find out there's a whole rabbinic tradition of, it's not fringe as in not kosher. It's fringe of people that learn not the daily regimen. It's like, I guess being in the Marines, there's like infantry. It's like the regular. But then there's guys that do special stuff. The Navy SEALs is fringe. Not everybody says, not everybody's a Navy SEAL. So by being a Navy SEAL, you're already fringe. And there's fringe Talmud. There's things that people just don't learn. Tractate Nazir. Beautiful, like the Nazarite. Beautiful Talmud. Hardly anybody learns it. But it's not frowned upon if you learn it. It's great if you learn it. It's like saying I'm a major in Shakespeare. No one says you're weird for learning strange English. But hey, if you can do it, way to go. Go do it. Where art thou, Romeo? And so you find this Ger world. You find out the Chafetz Chaim spoke about it. The Talmud spoke about it. Antoninus was a Ger Tzedek non-Jew who worked with Rebbe, the author of the Mishnah. And there's a whole Ger world. So now, as you find the Ger world, you realize there is a Ger world. And that's what allows you to keep going. Right? So just by finding the precedent and listening and working with it and getting it and finding those barriers of understanding, and it's daunting. And every step you take, you're not going to really know. Right? If you don't know what a Ger Toshav is, you don't know what a Ger Toshav is. Right? I also didn't know what these things were to the point where I could, bank on it as in terms of progression. But you chip away at it and you work where you're holding. People, for me, again, were asking if they can keep Shabbos. So for me, that was my issue. If I can prove Shabbos, which I did through the Ger Tzedek Ger Toshav, which in my world, that was learning the tradition of the Talmud according to Ger, you come out of it and you eventually understand Ger. And I'll just close with this point, nice idea. You'll get Ger. Just allow yourself to get it and to be familiar with it and take the step of allow the transcendence to happen. You'll have your moment. You'll have the moment where you have your aha, right? When you realize that you have to go bigger than you and it in order to get it. You're going to have to step into something bigger. And the only limitation is there's lack of precedent. But when you go with where it has to go, the precedent's there, and you'll find out you're in a familiar world of people that also get it and got it. And I think this is what's called seichel, the intellect with dexterity. Right? We say that in the time of Noah, the people that teach this wrong will say that Noah, the hands of those times, people was like clubs, right? That's what they say their hands were. And I heard this, and I'm saying, what? Really? Their hands were just, And so I looked it up, and the word used for this is adukim. Now, adukim is like if we're going to fight over my stender, I'm holding like this, right? So my hands are adukim. Now, technically, I'm like this, right? But I'm holding the stender. Hey. And that's what it meant. The people back then, the culture was not with dexterity in the hands. It wasn't the culture. And so they were adukim. And it just, the concept was adukim. Noah comes, he makes the plow, and he developed the plow, taught the plow. Dexterity was a thing now. And we see a hint of this with King David. With King David, with the rock and the sling and Goliath, maybe, I don't know if this is exactly right, but I can imagine King David sort of like a shortstop, right? He has the hand, the dexterity, but imagine, if David in the wilderness, all the things he really loved to sling his hand like a shortstop. So when it comes time to kill Goliath, the skill set is there. It's like I saw this Johnny Manziel, the quarterback for the Browns. He was up in the top row of the stadium. He threw a long bomb. It was huge. And into the basket of a basketball hoop, a football, right? And it looks like, wow, what a miracle. How can you do that? Like 100 yards away from a football into a hoop. But it's not that hard. Because there is wisdom, there is skill. There is that skill set like an NBA basketball game It's called zrizis. Real craftsmanship. If you're going to throw, there's mechanics of the arm. So you're not going to throw it this way or that way or behind you. It's only going to go straight, basically, if you're halfway skilled. And when you throw the mechanics, if you do it right, you can basically hit a strike every time. That's like when you watch quarterbacks in football, they hit it every time. So if you have young King David, and he really masters how to throw, he understands that time that the hand, the throwing, the arm can be fun skill. By the time Goliath comes up, who's just kind of like, "Arr," you know, without that dexterity, it's over, 1-2. It's like when I was wrestling in high school, and I was trying out for the football team. The football players didn't know how to wrestle, so I had dexterity. They didn't. They just want to kill you and tackle you. The wrestler wants to use his dexterity. So little me at the time took out a big guy because I simply had the dexterity. It was fun to wrestle. Those guys, it wasn't fun. It was awkward. And so that's what I see as the meaning of Noah's hands. It was an enjoyment to use the hands, whereas before the flood, it was just not enjoying. It was more of just crush them with the hands. And I see that's like with the ger, right? The ger is meant to be a fun with learning with dexterity. It's not supposed to be this cumbersome, just bop to the head. Allow yourself to have fun with it, grow with it, and be amazed with it. And that's how I would understand my personal account in getting it, of taking the most important step into the world of the ger.